So welcome. My name is Katie Hubbard. I've met a number of you before, and I'm really happy to see you all back for this month's cooking class. I'm the wellness coordinator for the University of Michigan Health Plan. And in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we have partnered with the University of Michigan Health Sparrow to offer a virtual cooking class focused around foods that help fight cancer and decrease the risk for cancer and cancer recurrence. Today, our dietitian, Sarah Smith, is going to help us unpack some of the benefits of phytonutrient-rich foods, as well as tips to help us increase our consumption of these powerful plants. If you have questions during today's chat or comments, feel free to utilize that chat feature. Otherwise, everyone will remain muted for the duration of the program. We'll address questions throughout as best we can, and then we'll save any that we can't get to for the very end. We are so grateful for Sarah for her willingness to share her clinical expertise as well as her delicious recipes with us, and to all of you for helping to engage and participate with today's cooking class. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Sarah.
Well, thank you, Katie. It's my pleasure to join you all again here in the kitchen at the hospital. Many of you have been here in the kitchen before, so I just really enjoy sharing my knowledge with you all, and I hope after today's presentation you'll be able to take these recipes home with you and find that they are pretty simple and very powerful per se as far as providing our body with all the nutrients that we need. So just to start, we have a short PowerPoint. I just want to go over some of the benefits of eating more of a plant-based diet or incorporating more plant-based foods, and just discuss briefly what the power of plants can actually do for our body. And then the three recipes that we're going to be making today is an apple almond quinoa salad, a butternut squash stew, and then baked oatmeal cups. If you've taken classes with me before, these recipes are not new. They've all been used in various settings before in different class topics that I've instructed. So what is a plant-focused diet? You can have many different variations of what someone would consider a plant-focused diet. You could be completely vegan, and vegan meaning that you completely eliminate fish, eggs, dairy, red meat, and poultry. Maybe you eat only dairy along with plant-based foods. That's also considered a lacto-vegetarian. Or you could be an ovo-vegetarian where you only include eggs, you eliminate dairy, fish, and red meat and poultry. Or maybe you eliminate red meat and poultry, however, you include fish, eggs, and dairy. My favorite one, I just love this term because this is fairly new within the last, 10 years or so, a flexitarian, where the majority of the time that you're eating, you're finding your nutrients from plant-based foods. However, occasionally you might have chicken, or occasionally you might have a steak or fish or eggs or dairy, but the majority of your nutrients are coming from plants. So there's 6 different types, and regardless of what your diet focus is currently, hopefully after today's presentation, my goal is just to get you to include more plants. Whatever eating pattern you have, I just want you to include at least 1 or 2 more plants a day. Plants are very powerful. Plants are very powerful, and phyto means plants in Greek. So phytochemicals is what we find in plants. All of those antioxidants and nutrients that we get from plants, those are called phytochemicals. And many plants that we have available to us come in many different colors. So you've heard the term eat through the rainbow or eat a variety of colors, and that's true. You get different types and different amounts of antioxidants or phytochemicals from all the different colors of plants. So for example, say you solely focus on just red because you like red grapes, you like red apples, you like red bell peppers and red strawberries. Nothing wrong with including those types of produce items into your diet, right? Because they're all from plants. But I just encourage you, if you solely focus on one color, to maybe branch out and try something of a different color. So instead of red grapes, maybe you're going to try green grapes. Or instead of a red apple, maybe you're going to get one of those yellow apples or a green apple. Or if you're thinking, well, I want to try something that's yellow, or I want to try something that's purple, whatever colors that you feel is your mood for that week, I want you to try to get 3 to 4 different colors in your grocery cart. So bananas, red apples, spinach, and carrots, those would be 4 different colors for you. And those are 4 pretty popular items. But the more colors that you can get into your diet, the more antioxidants that you're going to have as well. And every antioxidant does something for your body, but there's just different varying amounts in every color. Other things that different colored produce items can do for you is to provide protective benefits against cancer-causing agents or against cardiovascular disease or other health disparities like that can cause us to be very ill. Another prominent benefit of plants, not just the antioxidants and the protective benefits, but fiber. We're going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of the fiber from plants here shortly, but fiber is a definite benefit along with antioxidants that you're going to get from plants. So like I said, when we include different plants, different colors of plants are all going to have fiber. So the first thing, like I mentioned, try to vary your colors of produce every week. Get 3 or 4 different colors of produce. The next thing I'm going to urge you to do is to focus on fiber. Fiber is going to come from not only all those fruits and vegetables that you have in your cart, but also some whole grains or different ancient grains that a lot of us consume on a daily basis as well. Fiber is my favorite F word, in case anyone is wondering, but fiber has so many benefits. Fiber acts as our body's broom. So think about like sweeping your kitchen floor or sweeping, up after an animal or a child or something like that. You're really cleaning that area, right? You're cleaning that space. Well, that's what fiber does for our body. It gets rid of toxins out of our system and it gets rid of cholesterol. So when you have a high fiber diet, high fiber is defined as 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day. That fiber is acting as your body's broom, and it's going to attach itself to cholesterol molecules or plaque buildup in your arteries. It's going to attach itself to different toxins, and it's going to help rid your body of those things through the defecation process. Something else that fiber does, it helps to stabilize our blood glucose levels. So in turn, it's going to help with our insulin production from our pancreas. It also decreases the amount of estrogen that's absorbed in our body. So when we're thinking like breast cancer or other cancer diseases that some of us may have experienced, and it has to deal with estrogen, making sure that we have 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day in our diet is going to be helpful in terms of decreasing the estrogen absorption. Estrogen is also excreted through feces. And so once it's absorbed, because of the fiber, we also need fiber to help with healthy bowel movements. So again, now that we're getting enough fiber, we're also going to be having better bowel movements to get rid of these toxins, this cholesterol, and this excess estrogen. Testosterone is very similar to that of estrogen when it comes to the benefits of fiber. So when we have a high fiber diet, it's going to decrease that excess testosterone from floating around in our body. And it can also increase our sperm quality for those men that are concerned about that. Plants are also very beneficial for our gut health. I'm sure I'm sure all of you have heard both terms probiotics and prebiotics. Now, prebiotics is the food that feeds the good bacteria, or prebiotics feed the probiotic. And guess what feeds the probiotic? Fiber. So things like whole grains such as oatmeal or quinoa, or maybe we like brown rice. Those are considered whole grains. And the fiber from that is going to help feed that probiotic, that healthy bacteria that's in our guts. Or maybe you enjoy garlic or onions or bananas or apples. those are all plants, right? And those all have fiber in them. So they're acting as the prebiotic that's going to feed the probiotic in our gut bacteria. A lot of times when we're sick, or if we've been on specific medications such as antibiotics for a medical condition or a disease of some sort, that antibiotic kills the good bacteria in our gut. And we are going to need even more prebiotics to help feed what is still left there and to help build up some more probiotics in our gut system. So things like yogurt have live active cultures in them, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. There's some other foods there that are considered probiotic or have the live active cultures. But in conjunction with fiber-rich foods, you want to consume those live active cultures as well to help restore some of that good bacteria that's been destroyed by different medications. And once you, if you have a healthy gut or good bacteria in your gut, you're going to have a higher or a stronger immune system, because a healthy gut leads to a healthy body overall. So making sure that you have that 25 to 35 grams of fiber in your diet is going to be very beneficial to help your gut support a strong immune system. So we know that plants provide us fiber, and they provide us antioxidants, and they provide us benefits for our gut health, but they also provide many different benefits for our brain health as well. Antioxidants, again, I'm going to say antioxidants probably 5,000 more times throughout this presentation, because again, phytochemicals, right? But when we have a diet rich in grains and healthy fats and fruits and vegetables, then our brain health is going to be very sharp typically, because it's going to decrease that cognitive decline. And as we age, we cannot stop the aging process. So as we age, our organs and our muscles and stuff are going to decrease in function regardless, just because we're aging. However, if we include more of those unsaturated fatty acids from things like nuts or avocados, that's going to decrease inflammation and help to decrease the cognitive decline. We're going to continue to eat 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day and get all those different colors of fruits and vegetables. All of those antioxidants there are going to help to keep our healthy cells healthy, in turn to keep our cognition as sharp as possible. So when we include different items like I just mentioned, chances are you're going to have a better cognitive function of your brain as you age. And heart health is another important concept to keep in mind when we're thinking about adding in more plants into our diet, because fiber, again, acts as our body's broom. So it's going to decrease our bad cholesterol. It's going to decrease our overall triglycerides, and it's going to help manage blood pressure. There's different vitamins and minerals in plants that will actually maintain and stabilize our blood pressure at a more healthy level. Now, if you think about decreasing our bad cholesterol, decreasing our triglycerides, and managing a healthy blood pressure level, foods that are typically more processed or that are prepared more fried or come from animals typically cause our bad cholesterol to be elevated, our triglycerides to be elevated, and our blood pressure to be elevated because of all that maybe added sugar or added salt from processed foods and saturated fats then that would come from the animal proteins. So when you focus on more plants as part of a diet, as part of your diet, then you're going to have better chances of protecting yourself from cardiovascular disease. Protein from plants are also very important. We know that protein is a macronutrient in our diet. Protein helps to keep our immune system strong. Without protein, our immune system isn't going to be able to perform at tip-top shape. Having a strong immune system from antioxidants and protein is going to help protect your body from those cancer-causing agents that could float around in our body. Protein also helps to keep our muscles strong. Protein repairs our muscles after maybe a strenuous exercise, or if we had to have some sort of invasive surgery due to a medical illness or a cancer diagnosis, then we're going to need to increase our protein intake just to make sure that our skin and our muscles have enough for recovery. Protein from plants is just as beneficial as protein from animals. So you can get the same types and same amounts of amino acids from plants as you can from animal protein. You have more variety of plant-based proteins because every plant-based protein contains a differing amount of amino acids. So when you're eating beans or nuts, or say you're having tofu, or maybe you're having lentils or a different legume of some sort, then those are all great things to include, just making sure you're getting a variety of protein from plants to assure that you're getting enough of those amino acids. Plant-based proteins also contain, what's my favorite word? Fiber. So you're going to notice that you're going to have that fiber coming into your diet as well. So you're not just solely focusing on that 25 to 35 from fruits and vegetables or grains. You can also count that 25 to 35 grams of fiber from protein. So I've given you different reasons why including more plants in our diet is beneficial. So now I want to just give you a few strategies so that maybe you could take these home with you and apply these to your everyday life. So the first strategy I want to discuss briefly is to treat animal protein as a side dish, right? So many of us order a steak, or we grill chicken, or we have fish or something similar as our protein source for a meal, and that might take up 50% or more of our plate. But if we focus on animal protein taking up 25% or less of our plate and incorporate plants as the other 75%, you might notice that you're feeling better overall as well, but your variety in your diet is going to improve because you're going to have a lot less of that animal protein at a meal. So you can see here the picture, the steak versus the beautiful salad that we have. Stocking your kitchen area with different plant-based foods. So if you have a pantry that you utilize, making sure that that has some oats and some nuts and maybe some seeds in there. Your refrigerator, making sure that that's full of fruits and vegetables, or maybe you do meal preparation. So maybe you're going to cook ahead some quinoa or cook ahead some brown rice or cook ahead some beans. So then you have some easy to use plant-based foods there when you're preparing meals through the week. The freezer, stocking your freezer full of frozen fruits and vegetables. There's nothing wrong with utilizing those frozen fruits and vegetables as long as there's no added salt or added sugar to them. And then my favorite place to keep different plant-based items such as bananas, apples, oranges is the countertop. So many times, just personal story, right? So many times my kids just run through the kitchen wanting a snack. And well, if I have a candy jar or a bag of cookies sitting on the counter, they're going to grab that first. But I've noticed over the years, if I have bananas or apples or oranges or a mixture of all three sitting there in a bowl, and they're so hungry, they're just going to grab one of those and go sit down and start eating. So a lot of times it's what we initially see that's going to draw us to that item when we're hungry or ready for a snack. So making it more visible on the countertop is just going to assure that you're going to eat more of those items because it's right there and it's easy to grab. Convenience, right? So many of us love convenience. Some of our favorite dishes we could add more plants to. So say you really, really like to make tacos. Well, who doesn't, right? Or nachos or something similar. Well, instead of using that whole pound of ground turkey or ground beef for your taco meat, only use half a pound and then add black beans or some sort of other bean that you might like to go in that taco meat. So now you've decreased your animal protein, but increased your plant-based protein and increased your fiber from those beans. Or maybe you make a casserole of some sort that has a lot of chicken or sausage or something similar in it. Well, now maybe you're going to add 1 or 2 bags of frozen vegetables as filler foods there. to increase the amount of plants that you're going to be getting in that dish. Regardless, it's very easy to add fruits and vegetables to your meals. Eggs is another good one. If you make scrambled eggs for breakfast or something similar, an egg sandwich, why not utilize some of that spinach or avocado or leftover onions and bell peppers and put that in with your egg mixture, just to give yourself more fiber and more antioxidants, right? When we plan our meals and prep our meals, that typically is just a sure sign way for us to increase the amount of plants that we consume. So say you got home from the grocery store on Sunday and you had an extra half hour, go ahead and chop up those bell peppers or hull those strawberries. So then you have easy to grab fruits and vegetables as snacks through the week. Because yes, we might buy those items, but if we don't prepare them right away, they might just sit in our fridge until eventually they go bad because we're going to end up running out of time. Another tip that I like to talk about is making your own homemade veggie tray. So if you got bell peppers and carrots and cucumbers, well, great. Chop it all up, slice it all up, and then put it into a veggie tray and then store that in your fridge at eye level so that when you're getting home from work, preparing dinner, it's easy to grab that veggie tray out and set it on the counter for your family or for yourself to snack on while you're making dinner. You could also, if time is a constraint for you, then buy your plants already prepped. So I know at stores like Kroger, Meijer, Fresh Time, stores like that, they already sell diced bell peppers, diced onions. They already sell pre-made veggie trays and fruit trays. So yeah, it might cost a few more dollars, but you're buying things already prepped. So then you don't have to find that extra time to sit there, or I guess I should say stand there, right? And prep those items for your meals or snacks. Maybe you want to start trying more plant-based meals solely. So instead of making it so overwhelming for yourself and doing it full-fledged, right? All 3 meals, 7 days a week, you're just going to do this and this is how you're going to do it. Well, why don't you start with 1 meal per day coming from 100% plants? So whether your protein is coming from tofu or beans or lentils, or you're going to make a large salad with maybe quinoa and nuts in it, regardless, starting with 1 meal per day coming from 100% plants is going to be very beneficial for you. You're still going to get those cancer fighting properties, and you're still going to get those protective benefits from those plant-based items. You could also sneak in more plants wherever you can. Like we already mentioned, putting seeds in your oatmeal, topping your toast with avocado, adding some kale or spinach or other greens like that to a soup. Maybe you're going to have more vegetables and a chickpea or hummus dip as a snack. Those are all things that are coming from plants. So sneaking in more plants wherever you can is going to be beneficial to help you get all those antioxidants and fiber grams that you need in a day. So that is those 6 strategies for increasing the amount of plants that you consume in your diet. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to transition into our recipes. So if there's no questions, then I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And we are going to go straight into the baked oatmeal cups. So let me wash my hands and get some ingredients set up, and we'll get started here. I'm starting with the baked oatmeal cups because they take about 25 minutes to bake in the oven at, I think it's 375 degrees. So the first step in this recipe is I mashed 2 bananas in this beautiful glass bowl. So once the 2 bananas are mashed in your bowl, you can go ahead and crack 2 eggs and put them in the bowl as well.
If you're making a
Yes.
double batch of these,
You can make a double batch of them. One
hack
single
is the-
batch makes about 12 muffins, but if you're doing meal prep and prepping ahead, then you could make a double batch if there's more than just you that would like these for breakfast throughout the week.
And you can mash the bananas in your mixer.
Yes, you can. Yep. You can use a hand mixer to mash your bananas if you want to. You could use a hand mixer for the whole recipe as well, if that's easier for you. Now, another plant that we're adding to this recipe is rolled oats. So we're going to do 3 cups of rolled oats. And rolled oats are going to give us a whole grain and some fiber. They also give us some iron and some different B vitamins. So those are just some added benefits there. Rolled oats, since they contain so much fiber, they're going to help to stabilize our blood sugars and to stabilize our satiety levels between our meals.
Sarah, there was a question in the chat. Do the bananas need to be brown, or is it just based on preference of sweetness?
It's based on preference of sweetness. Mine were yellow to brown, kind of like that medium range there. They mash a lot better when they're brown, but if you're using your mixer, if you aren't really that worried about it, that's not going to alter the recipe at all. And I'm adding the brown sugar. And we're going to do pecans. So pecans are considered a plant-based protein. So these are unsalted chopped pecans. I do need to get the milk out of the fridge here in a second. But then we're going to have a teaspoon of baking powder added to the recipe, just so that it helps with rising because we're going to be baking this. Also going to do some vanilla for sweetness. And some cinnamon as well. And you can vary the amounts of cinnamon or vanilla that you put in based on your taste preference. And a little bit of salt is going to be helpful for this recipe for the baking process also. So it'll probably be equivalent to about a 1/4 teaspoon or less. We're going to add in 1½ cups of milk. Now, something I want to discuss, no, milk does not come from a plant. I'm well aware of that, right? And either do eggs. But if you are someone that does include eggs or dairy into your diet, then I want to urge you to aim for more of those lower fat items. So I used skim milk or fat-free milk for this recipe. And why I did is because the saturated fat that you find in dairy products specifically and animal proteins can actually increase inflammation in your body. And so when we're trying to decrease that inflammation by adding in more plants, the last thing we want to do is continue a high-fat diet from those high-fat animal proteins to continue to promote that inflammation. The next time you're at the grocery store, just try to aim for 1% milk or skim milk as your low-fat variations. Now I'm going to fold in the blueberries. So we have oats, blueberries, pecans, and bananas as our plant-based items here. Once everything is mixed thoroughly, we're going to spray a cupcake tin and then evenly distribute them through the 12 openings here.
Sarah, what do you think about using an oat milk or an almond milk?
So the milk is providing you a protein to help with the baking process as well. If you wanted to try an unsweetened soy milk, that might be helpful. If you did try the almond milk or something similar, just make sure that it's unsweetened. The texture of the oatmeal cup might come out just a tad different than what we're looking for. We're looking for more of a dense texture. So just keep that in mind if you wanted to use a plant-based milk.
And I don't know if lactose milk is similar, but someone else asked about lactose milk.
Yep, the lactose-free milk. So like Lactaid or Fairlife milk, that's actually cow's milk. It's just the lactose is filtered out. So you're still going to get that protein component that we're looking for. So that milk would work just fine as well. Great questions. So now what I'm doing is just evenly distributing the oatmeal into these different cups here. And if you did end up making a double batch, or you ended up, oh gosh, I don't need this now for the week, you can actually freeze them. They freeze just fine in your freezer in an airtight container or a Ziploc freezer bag. And if you used them as a meal prep item, just putting them in your microwave the morning that you need them for about 30 to 45 seconds each is going to help just to warm them back up so that they have more of a palatable texture for you. I don't know about you, but cold oatmeal cups just are not appetizing to me. So we got just about 12 cups here. So as you can see, my cupcake tin is now full. So I'm going to put these in the oven for about 25 minutes. So that is our first recipe that we've completed. Hopefully everyone is still around to see them come out of the oven when they're done.
Sarah, you're more up to date than I am on food safety, but how long would they freeze for or be safe kept in the freezer?
Oh, I would say probably 3 to 6 months. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to clean off my area here, and we're going to start the butternut squash stew next. So if you're following along, the butternut squash stew is something that you can make in either your crock pot, or you could make it on the stove top, depending on your time for the day. Because of time purposes, we're going to make it on the stove top today. I've made this recipe numerous times at home, and I love making it in the crock pot. So it's just a bunch of different ingredients. You just throw all the ingredients in your crock pot and set it on low for about 6 to 8 hours. And then at the very end of cooking is when you would add the kale for about 15 to 20 minutes, just to let it wilt into the crock pot of stew. And that's how you would do it in the crock pot. But for the stovetop, it's gonna just a couple different steps just to make sure that everything's cooked thoroughly, because when we're doing it on the stovetop, it's gonna take about 20 minutes roughly. You could use canola oil or olive oil. So whichever oil that you're using, they're both coming from plants. They both also have heart-healthy fats in them, or unsaturated fatty acids. So they're going to be good for absorbing fat-soluble vitamins. Yes, we do need fat in our diet to absorb different fat-soluble vitamins and minerals that would be absorbed then through our colon, such as vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin A. The unsaturated fatty acids are also going to, help to decrease our bad cholesterol and increase our good cholesterol. So there's plenty of different benefits from getting your fat from plants. Now, I have a trick to show you here shortly, but just because I want to get this stew simmering here, we jumped right into it. I've already chopped the butternut squash into the cubes that we need. So this is roughly 1 small butternut squash. So it's equivalent to about 2 to 2.5 cups of chopped squash. So I'm gonna put this in the stove, or the crock on top of the stove.
There,
Can you
while you're
guys hear
doing
it
that,
wiggling?
Kim says that she loves crock pot recipes, so thank you.
Oh, yes, anytime. I love crock pot recipes too. All right, so the squash, the butternut squash is in here with the olive oil. Now the seasoning for this stew, we have turmeric, we have cumin, and we also have ginger. We're going to add in some black pepper and salt as well. But I just want to give you a little bit of insight on turmeric and black pepper. So turmeric has a compound in it called curcumin, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And in order for that property to be absorbed in our body and to help decrease that inflammation that so many of us have, we actually need to consume it with black pepper, because black pepper helps with that absorption. So if you're cooking with turmeric at home, you always want to make sure that black pepper is added with the turmeric. Typically, if you take a turmeric supplement for decreasing your inflammation, there's already going to be a black pepper compound in there for you. So we're going to add a teaspoon of all these seasonings.
Tiffany says, I love how food works together to help our bodies.
Sorry, Katie, I couldn't hear you. The squash is sizzling.
I said, Tiffany said that she loves how food works together to help our bodies.
Yeah, yep. So the last ingredient I still have to add is the pepper.
Borough Rapid Response Team, 7 West, room 786, bed 1. Borough Rapid Response Team, 7 West, room 786, bed 1. Borough Rapid Response Team, 7 West, room 786, bed 1.
And you can see from the turmeric and then the squash as well, but I don't know if you can see it, but the spatula is already turning a bright yellow. We're going to use some vegetable broth. So you could do the organic kind if you wanted. You could do the Meyer brand, low sodium, whatever your preference is. But we need roughly 6 cups of vegetable broth. And every package is 4 cups. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 whole container here. Because we want to let that squash saute in the oil for 4 to 5 minutes just to help start the softening process. And this is exactly half of a container because I had to use 2 cups out of it yesterday for another class. So you more than welcome to measure it at home, but I already know how much is coming out of this because of a recipe I used yesterday. So I'm going to stir this around a little bit. And we want it to start to come to a medium size boil. While we're waiting for it to start boiling before we add the rest of the ingredients, I'm just going to talk about them. So we have a plant-based protein. I chose a reduced sodium chickpea. Now you could get the no salt added chickpeas if you would like as well. I've already rinsed them in a colander under cold running water just to get any excess salt off of them from all that packaging liquid that it comes with. So I've rinsed the chickpeas off already, so I'll put this in the pot here shortly. Then a can of tomatoes. If you wanted to do the no salt added version like I did, feel free. If maybe you do your own tomatoes because you have a garden and you stew your own tomatoes, can your own tomatoes, feel free to use those also. Now we're going to use canned coconut milk. Now we know coconut, it comes from a plant, right? So definitely does have some antioxidants in it, but it is high in saturated fat. So that kind of gets some people confused because, well, if coconuts come from a plant, then they must be healthy. Their fat must be healthy for me. Use with caution, or how often you're going to be using coconut milk or a coconut-based product that has the coconut fat in it, because saturated fat is saturated fat. So just because it comes from a plant, such as the coconut plant, it's still going to have a high saturated fat content, which will promote that inflammation. So a lot of times when people use coconut oil for different cooking purposes, or they add coconut oil to their coffee in the morning, I mean, I've heard lots of different uses for coconut oil. It is still solid at room temperature. So that means it's still high in saturated fat, which can promote inflammation, that can increase our cholesterol levels, and that can cause issues for our cardiovascular health. All right. So while I'm still waiting for this to come to a boil, I'm going to talk a little bit about squash. Squash is such a great vegetable to have, especially in the fall, because so many of us have gardens and we grow squash on our own. But then once we have the squash and we get so much of it, well, what do we do with it? How do we use it? How do we prepare it? How do we cut it? How do we slice it? So with this butternut squash, really any size butternut squash or acorn squash or spaghetti squash, any type of squash that you have, I want you to make sure that you put it in the microwave for 1 to 2 minutes before you actually cut it or peel it or dice it or de-seed it, okay? Because what's going to happen is when you put it in that microwave for that short period of time, the skin is going to kind of break away from the flesh and it's going to soften. So it's going to make it a lot easier for your knife to slide through that vegetable so that you're not at risk for cutting yourself. Because when we play teeter-totter, right, with our knife back and forth, we have a strong probability that it could slip and it could cut us. And there's nothing worse than dreading preparing or cutting or chopping your squash because there's no easy way to cut it or prepare it. So let me put this in the microwave and I'm going to show you my little trick. All right, so it's in the microwave for a brief time. Now the stew is starting to boil. I guess it's more of a simmer right now. I'm going to go ahead and add the chickpeas, the tomatoes, and the coconut milk. I'm going to stir, and then we're just going to leave it sit here on the stovetop for a little while to let everything simmer together and let the squash cook completely down. Now, you want the squash soft. You don't necessarily need it pureed or like a mashed potato consistency, but we do want it soft so that it's palatable for us when we're eating the soup. I like to add the kale at the end because when the kale gets added too soon and too much heat gets added to it, then not only does it turn brown because kale's bright green, when you add too much heat to it for too long, it can start to turn brown. But also when you add too much heat to a green leafy vegetable like spinach or kale, it can denature or break down some of those phytochemicals that are in the leafy greens. So I like to have them a vibrant green color when I'm ready to eat that recipe or eat that meal. So that's why I always add the greens or suggest that you add the greens at the very end of the cooking process. All right, so this squash I put in the microwave for roughly 90 seconds because I would consider this a medium-sized squash. Now you can see potentially some little hot spot areas on it. They're just a little bit of a darker colored circle. So be careful because those are hot because it was just in the microwave. But now that it's out of the microwave, I'm going to put it on the cutting board here. Make sure your knife is sharp and that you're holding it with your thumb and your index finger right here, right in front of the handle, so that you have a good control of your knife. Make sure it's sharp because a dull knife can also be dangerous as well. But you see how easy it is just to slide right through once it's been in the microwave for a little while. Just cutting it in a few different areas so that you guys can kind of see how easy the knife would just slide right through. Now, if we wanted to peel it, then we would take a Y peeler. This is the XO or OXO brand. You can find Y peelers similar to this in stores like Target or Meijer. You can buy one off Amazon. I mean, different companies, I'm sure, sell peelers like this as well. But if you need to peel your squash, it peels very easily also. And this is more sturdy than your typical potato peeler. So this is going to allow you to have more control for this thick skin, because squash does have thick skin on it, but right now it's softer because of the microwave use. So
Sarah, I have a question. Several people really like this method. And someone mentioned that, the hassle of cutting and peeling the squash can be a barrier for actually cooking with it. Would frozen squash, like if you could, I know you could buy frozen cubed butternut squash. Would that be a substitute that you could use in this recipe?
oh yeah, for sure. Yep. You could definitely use the frozen squash. That would eliminate a lot of time from this recipe too, right? So you could use the frozen squash. That's not an issue. And then you're taking the seeds out. It's easy too. But if you did want to use fresh squash, just letting you in on a little tip and trick there for you. So there's one antioxidant that's very prominent in squash called lutein, Lutein. And lutein is very high in squash, but you might not find very much lutein in another color. So hence why we've also added in the tomatoes so that we can get a different color so that all those antioxidants can kind of work together within that recipe. And then the green kale is going to contain a different amount of antioxidants. So just making sure you're getting the whole family of phytochemicals there is going to be important. So this stew is definitely boiling. So I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. And clean up my area for just a second, and then we'll do our last recipe. All right, so our last recipe is the apple pomegranate almond salad. Now again, all plants in this salad, and you're gonna get plant-based proteins and then some different fruits and different vegetables that are gonna be included in this salad as well. This could be when you're trying to transition to one meal a day of being 100% from plants. Well, this could be a great recipe that you utilize and maybe make ahead and you have it for lunch 3 or 4 days that week. Or you're gonna include it as your dinner meal if you're busy at night and you need something more quick then. But regardless, this salad is a complete meal in one bowl. So those are always win-win situations, right? So we're gonna start by making our dressing. So we have a homemade dressing that we're going to make, and we have many different ingredients. So one of the first ingredients is apple cider vinegar. If you're trying to limit how much salt that you have in your diet, adding vinegar or another acid to different recipes is a great way to help to bring the flavors together and kind of does the same things that salt does as far as enhancing flavors of other food items.
Sarah, while you're
Right.
mixing that, do you happen to know, does microwaving work for all squash and pie pumpkins, or is it only certain types?
No, but it works for all squash and pumpkins, yes. But again, just paying attention to those hot spots that they might have on them. So we've added apple cider vinegar and olive oil. We're gonna do some honey. And then some Dijon mustard. Has anyone had the Dijon mustard honey combination before in dressings? If you haven't, I highly suggest you try it because it's very flavorful. And they pair well together, the sweetness from the honey, but then the tanginess and the full flavor from the Dijon mustard is definitely a great flavor combination. I'm going to add some black pepper to this also, but this is the dressing for the salad. Now, for time purposes, I kind of cut some corners, and I've already cooked our quinoa. So I took 1 cup of dry quinoa to 2 cups of water, and I boiled it on the stovetop. And that gave me 2 cups of cooked quinoa. So this is one of the main ingredients into the salad that we're going to add to the bowl here. So the dressing is done. We'll put the quinoa into the bowl. Now, quinoa is a grain, but it's also a grain that contains a high amount of protein. And quinoa is very versatile because you can use it as something that you're eating cold. You could use it as something that you're eating hot. You could use it in the morning in place of like oatmeal or something similar. You could put it on salads. You could use it in recipes such as stir fries or rice casseroles and replace the rice with the quinoa. So if you do cook it ahead, it also stores well in the refrigerator for up to 5 days. So you could get a serving out every day for something that maybe you're making for your lunches, or just cook it ahead. So then you have the quinoa to utilize for different recipes that you might be making that week. So another ingredient we're going to put into the salad here is kale. And since we have kale in both recipes, I was able to already chop this kale and wash it. I'm just throwing it into the salad here. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the dressing. because I want to, what we say, massage the kale some so that the kale becomes a little bit softer. And kale and quinoa both are going to be very good ingredients in a salad as far as absorbing the flavor of the dressing. So not only are we going to massage the kale with the olive oil dressing mixture, but we're also adding it to the kale and the quinoa so that those two ingredients can start absorbing the flavors before all the other ingredients get added. Now, if you wanted to add less kale, you could. I know it calls for, I think, roughly 2 cups. Or if you wanted to add more kale, feel free. The sky's the limit. These recipe cards are just skeletons for you, and you can modify it to fit your preference. All right, so we have the dressing, the kale, and the quinoa here. I cut up a Honeycrisp apple, so a red apple. So we have green kale and a red apple. Now an orange, so I cut up a navel orange here. Now the sweetness from the fruit, from the apple and the orange, that's gonna add some sweetness to the salad. And then pomegranate seeds. Pomegranates are a great source of fiber. They're also a great source of antioxidants. But what they do is they, as far as why we're adding it to the salad, is for looks, because it adds a lot of aesthetics to your salad, but it also adds a great texture. So I don't know if you've had pomegranate seeds before, but not just the fiber and the antioxidant benefit, but you're also going to get a nice texture while you're eating that salad. I have a 1/4 cup of red onion.
I know we are almost at time, so for those of you who need to leave to get to another meeting, totally understand, and thank you for joining us. If you can hang around and see these yummy oatmeal cups come out of the oven, you're welcome to. But you can always catch us on the recording that you'll get next week sometime.
I'm sorry, I'm running over.
You're good. You're good.
We have almonds and then our golden raisins. And our salad is complete here. Now this bowl is pretty full, but as you can see, this I believe this makes 8 servings here in this bowl of the salad. So it'll be a great item to take with you to work during the week if you're looking for meal preparation. So we have the salad that's done. We also have the oatmeal cups that are done. If you were in the kitchen, you'd be able to smell them with the cinnamon and the different ingredients. So they are complete. Now we just have to complete our stew. So the last ingredient I'm going to put in the stew is the kale. Because we just want the kale to wilt down. So I took a bunch of kale, 1 bunch of kale, and I've already chopped it up. I'm going to add it in here to the soup mixture. And I'm going to cover it and let the steam from that stew kind of help to wilt down the kale. One thing I like to do with kale when it's on a stem like this is use my thumb and index finger, and then you can just pull the kale. Typically, you can just run your finger and thumb up the stem, and you can pull most of the kale off. So another little trick if you're wondering, well, how do I get all the kale off that? Pretty easy. It just has to be fresh kale. So, but those are the 3 recipes that I have for you today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat like Katie mentioned. But regardless, I hope that you've learned different ways on how to incorporate more plant-based foods into your diet and different reasons why you should incorporate more phytochemicals into your routine. But it was great working with you all today in the kitchen for the last hour, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
That's awesome. There was a question that came in if you were making that soup in the crock pot, Sarah, when would you put the kale in?
Oh, probably within the last half hour.
Okay.
You could even probably do 15 minutes too, if your crock pot was on low.
Someone else had a good.
The kale in the stew is just about all wilted down and done wilting, so.
It goes fast. Someone else had a really good suggestion about quinoa, cooking it in vegetable or chicken broth instead of water if you wanted to try something different.
Yes, that's a great idea because the quinoa absorbs the flavors that it's cooked in. So if you put it into vegetable broth or chicken broth or something, just making sure that you're using the quinoa for a recipe that's going to taste good if you're using the vegetable broth or chicken broth. You could even put garlic powder or onion powder, different seasonings in the liquid that you're cooking the quinoa in, and it'll absorb that too.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you
You're
all of you for
welcome.
joining. Look forward to next month. We're doing a diabetes webinar. If you're interested in learning more about how you can prevent or decrease your risk for diabetes or slow the progression of the disease. So that will be November for American Diabetes Month. And then next year, we'll have Sarah back for another cooking class.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.